Hello and welcome to the Zach Ratliff Show. I'm Zach. That's Hunter. That's Steve. We're
Hey,
here on Fridays
so far so good.
sometimes. Let me jump in by mentioning my sponsors: Mortgage Financial here in Texarkana, Elmwood Custom Goods, and Church on the Rock, Texarkana. That's churchontherock.org.
Church of the Rock. We'll love the hell out of you.
There we go. All right. So,
I like looking at the camera. You'll
yeah,
say things like
Make
that. Yeah.
awkward eye contact with you.
yeah,
Yeah.
just
Just
coyly.
stare into my eyes while
That's right.
Let's try to do that a lot today.
Oh,
move her
Hunter,
closer.
Hunter just yeah, look shocked. All right, we want to get into a few things today. Steve, thanks for asking about my shirt.
It's I just got emotional when I saw it.
Yeah. So it's the Hull for Bowie County GOP. Dale Hulls is running to be the
County
commissioner,
chair.
county chair. That's what it
Yeah.
is. County, yeah, not commissioner, county
Yeah.
chair
Yeah.
of the Bowie County Republican Party, and make sure you support him in the election. I think he's needed in
I
our
think so.
county.
You know, we do the same thing over and over for a long time, and everything seems fine. But then, you know, you need to do something different, and
Right.
sometimes that stings a little. But I think it's time to do things differently.
Yeah, shake things up a little bit. All right, Hunter, I've got an article, and I'm gonna make it lead to where we're going, but it doesn't really lead to where we're going.
Scary.
So, Hunter, you make it lead.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I'm twist
So
around.
And when you do it,
from the
camera.
yeah, from the freebeacon.com, over 70% of Americans back Trump's strikes on drug smuggling boats. Have you seen these?
Oh yeah.
Have you seen
Yeah.
these videos?
Yeah.
Like we're hammering them out there.
What's interesting about that whole thing is Trump has this ability to take an issue and force the opposition to defend it, no matter how insane it is. It's really politically, regardless of where you stand, politically, it is brilliant because he will say, I'm going to strike Venezuelan drug dealers on the water. I'm going to make you defend Venezuelan drug dealers in public.
Right.
Yeah.
And the left falls for it.
That's fascinating.
Constantly. I don't think that happened as much during the first administration, but he's noticed Trump derangement syndrome and how it can be fun. And so he comes out and goes, you know what? Oxygen.
Well, I
I
think
like oxygen a lot.
yeah, and I think his second term specifically, he's figured out how to not play the game, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
In other words, I think going into 2016, he was neophyte. He was a businessman and a shark, but he wasn't political at all.
And
And
I
he didn't know
think
how to play the game that is politics and when to know when to play it and when to not play it. And he played it too often, I think, his first term.
and I think he thought in his first term, I think he thought everybody had good intentions. Like we just don't agree on how to get there.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's I believe quickly he learned like they're going to bankrupt me and try to kill me.
Yeah, and he's going for broke on the
And they're trying to
litigation
destroy the
side.
country.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that I mean, you run into it nowadays. You go, they're trying to destroy the country. They go, don't say that.
Yeah,
That's
why would
not
you say that?
nice. And it's,
You
I
mean-
mean, it's either they're accidentally destroying the country or they're doing it on purpose.
I think it's a lot harder to accidentally do it because look at the framework that our founders set up. Like our constitution's withstood some trials.
Yeah,
It has.
it's a timeless document.
Those guys, they killed it back then. And so, and that's that's one of the things that we run against. I mean, I'm with the John Birch Society. I'm a field coordinator for the John Birch Society. So we try to educate people. But we do that with the Bowie County Patriots too.
Yeah.
And as explained one time, there's an accidental versus deliberate worldview of history. Accidental is we elect really almost Pope. You know, we elect such godly people, such smart people who can obviously figure out what the right thing to do is, but they just keep accidentally voting bad. And you can't fix that
Yeah.
because it's been going on
Dang
for
it.
200 years,
Yeah.
2,000 years. Look at your point of view. But if it's deliberate, then we can do something about it.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a lot more empowering. If you do want to make a difference, yeah. Well, let's figure out what they did, why they did it so badly, and what the counter to that is. And a lot of times it's just let's follow the Constitution. Most of the time,
It's timeless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and so speaking of the Constitution, we got these 10 pesky things that get in the way of all tyrants, left and right, that want to take over our country. So number one, freedom of religion, speech, and press.
Two more.
Petition.
Two more.
Yeah.
What else is on it?
Petition.
Petition.
Just government for
Assembly.
redress.
Petition the government. What's the other one?
Freedom
Assembly.
to gather.
Freedom of assembly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Peacefully
Yeah.
assemble.
That's one long amendment.
It is.
It's a big one.
But the it's often said the one that makes that one available is the Second Amendment, which is a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
That's like, so the one amendment, I wish they would have specified in 58 lines exactly what every little thing,
very clear.
just like first where you have this, like, but I know, that amendment. And what's interesting, the argument I always hear, and I'm pro Second Amendment. When I was 5 years old, I had a gun in my hand because I grew up in Arkansas. But
Defend the family.
yeah,
I killed my grandpa's chicken one time when I was about that age because he had a mean rooster. Okay.
Yeah.
And the story, and I don't remember, but the story as it goes is I walk into his house, grab the 22 because that's how you grew up on a farm and grab the 22. He goes, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'll be back." He hears it shoot. He comes out there and I'm walking back with his rooster in my hand, like, he's like, "Well, did you shoot my rooster?" I'm like, "Yes."
He had it coming.
Yeah.
Well, and the argument I always hear, and I'm always welcome to debate that amendment with anybody, but that's my thing. And they never would have envisioned the things that we have nowadays. And I always think, you're telling me that the founding fathers were so dumb they thought that history would freeze in the 1780s when they wrote the Constitution.
Right.
Technology will never change.
Yeah, this is where we are.
And if you look at the history of firearms going back, to the original hand cannons in China, should be going back 700 years when the first ones were created, roughly, because they invented gunpowder. The progression was obvious where that was going. I mean, the first repeating rifles were in the 1600s.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, it's to pretend like they were living in a vacuum and had no clue that technology was going to progress, and it seems to me they purposely wrote a broad amendment
so that
to encompass the future. Yeah.
Because these guys that made, as you said, a timeless document that's going to withstand all the legal battles that it's withstood over the last 250 years.
Yeah.
To think they couldn't see, they had a narrow vision on this is it's really just not doing them any justice, honestly.
And if you look at the other writings, which nobody ever does, nobody looks at the Constitution either. So, but if you look at the other writings that they had pre-constitutional convention, all of them recognized universal ownership. I mean, it was in every state constitution, pretty much in the colonies. It was in there. To pretend like this was some sort of thing they concocted out of nothing in Philadelphia in 1787, that's ridiculous.
Well, and Steve, in the Constitution, it's the Declaration. What? No, where is it? The right to,
The Declaration is where it said people have the right to throw off their government.
Yes. Okay,
and
that's what I was looking for.
if it's something that's going to fit their lives. And so you can't do that without arms.
Yeah, you can't. And the government now, admittedly, our government is more. No matter what we say, they have better stuff than we do.
Yeah.
But still, there's a reason why Japan never wanted to attack mainland America. I mean,
there was a
rifleman behind
with a gun behind every blade of grass.
Yeah, I mean, so I feel like this has been minimalized. So then, back to what you said earlier, Hunter. I think it was the play of the century. Trump comes out and he knows this gets no traction. He knows it's not legal, and he says, "Well." Obviously I hadn't talked to him. I don't know that he knows these things, but this is just what I imagine.
Mhm.
He says, "Well, I don't think transgenders ought to have guns." And so then what's the left do? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yes, they should have guns.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you've got the left defending gun ownership. I thought everybody was allowed to have a gun.
Yeah.
So if you were going to change the Second Amendment, how would you change it?
Go ahead. You
Me?
said you wish it had more
I think
lines.
it's beautifully written. I wouldn't change it. I would never take it upon myself to change anything that's being written, ever.
Yeah.
Well, specificity is nice, but then again,
They thought we'd be smarter than we are.
well, the problem with specificity, and I said this earlier, I wish they would have made a 58 line amendment on that.
Yeah.
I really don't, because the problem with specificity in a document like that is that you're limiting yourself in the future.
Yeah.
And the founders weren't stupid. The Ninth Amendment pretty much says, all these amendments we said, There's also more than that. We just didn't write them
Yeah.
down. You know,
This
and
limits the government. If we didn't think of it, it still fits.
right, and of course the 10th is important too because it says, you know, if this is not under our purview, the states get to decide these things.
Yeah. So if you
Um,
were if you wanted to write a conservative constitution, do you think it would make gun ownership more robust, sacrosanct, or do you think it would be less?
Oh, you mean like as far as what you're allowed to own specifically?
Because the in not early 1970s, mid 1970s,
Mhm.
there's people said we should replace the Constitution in 1976
Mhm.
or 1987, the 200-year anniversary of the Declaration of the Constitution, and somebody came out with a conservative Constitution,
Mhm.
which doesn't even make sense. But it literally added just a few words to the Second Amendment. It said, "When in the service of the militia,"
Yeah.
which so now somebody gets to define militia, and
Right. Is that something that is
whatever the
formally?
definition was in 1787, the definition now would be whatever we tell you it is. Peasant, sit back down.
Yeah, and you know, as far as the definition of an official regulated militia, the National Guard would be
Yeah, it falls right in there.
that would be
Well, the militia back then was
every farmer and
Yeah, anybody.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah,
carry the gun. You're in the militia.
right.
Well, and that was part of it, right? Hey, we've got something going on. Walk the 3 miles to your neighbor's house,
Mhm.
grab him, go ahead and have your stuff with you, because we're going to pass the next neighbor, and we're going to have a group of fellas with us by the time we get to wherever we're going,
Yeah.
and we're going to be able to defend this place.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
you know what's interesting is a lot of times, as far as deep regulation, you know, going back to, you know, what does it mean? Usually you see the push for deep regulation after some sort of tragedy.
Yeah.
And these events are horrific. They really are. They're horrific. Human nature itself is obviously horrific.
right.
You
Yeah.
know, but what's interesting is that, you know, there's always a call to change that amendment or other amendments whenever there's a big issue.
Mhm.
You know, the knee jerk reaction is let's take this thing and tear it up and start again. But what people fail to realize is that there were insurrections and rebellions inside the nation in the 17 and 1800s after we created the Constitution. There's
Right.
not one president, at least widely spoken, ever pushed to change the document
Right.
during those kind of things. You know, now some presidents overstepped their bounds and took too much power for themselves. That was obvious.
When they put down the steel workers, or
Right. Yeah. Right. So, but you never saw, you know, from the men who wrote those documents, and most of them survived. A lot of them survived into the 1820s and 30s. And by that time, there had been domestic insurrections inside the nation, and not once did they ever make a real push to try to change the document in any way, shape, or form.
well, because in my mind, and I could be wrong on this, so correct me if correction doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Yes,
it does.
Well, dang it.
Get out.
We're taking the show. Black drape the sign. These guys have been under rule of a monarch.
Yeah.
Schizophrenic monarch.
Yeah,
He used to
exactly.
walk the halls and scream to himself in the mirrors.
That's
I do
bad.
that sometimes.
That's bad.
Oh, did you do that?
No,
Never mind.
no,
That's normal
no.
behavior actually now.
Yeah. It is normal behavior
I
now.
was thinking about somebody else.
Yeah, that's right. And so, but they've been under the rule of a monarch who had the army, who had the weapon. What better way? That's what they didn't want, was a tyrant that you couldn't control.
Yeah, and that and a lot of the things that spurred this idea of rebellion during that time. And another misconception a lot of Americans have is that every single person was a patriot and every single person wanted to
30%.
separate. Yeah, it was a tiny percentage of people. They just happened to be the percentage that won.
Yeah, read the books,
But
right?
one of the biggest contentions, especially during that time, Americans are forward-thinking people, and whether we're talking about misguided forward thinking or we're talking about geographic forward thinking,
Right.
expansion is always on the mind of the colonists
Yeah.
prior to independence. And one of the biggest things that happened that really upset them was limiting expansion beyond the Appalachian Mountains. That was a big contention because Americans, I mean, at that time they had the pioneer mindset: go out, make it for yourself. And this idea that we draw these proclamation lines, I think it was 1763, they drew a proclamation line, couldn't settle any further west, and that was part of the agreement with the French and Indians at the French and Indian War.
Right.
They said you can't expand, you can't do that, and then of course you have the subsequent taxes and everything else that gets more talked about.
Right.
But
I'm just nodding.
yeah, but this concept,
Teach us, sir.
this concept that these these acts by kings were universally accepted by all loyalists wasn't quite true either. A lot of them had a
No.
big problem, but they sought more reconciliatory measures. Don't go fight.
Well, it's an extreme thing to say, hey, we're gonna, if you go back just to, 3 out of every 10 people are like, hey, this guy's a problem. We're gonna rise up and take on the strongest military to have ever been known. Like,
Biggest-
what a
largest empire,
wild
yeah.
concept.
Other than the Mongols, pretty much, and Alexander the Great, the largest empire to ever exist.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's no way. So then looking back, like, how'd we do this?
It's
We put together a militia. Okay,
Yeah.
we need to make sure we can do that in the future because we're creating a land based on freedom. There's gonna be a bad actor that comes in and tries to take these freedoms away,
Yeah.
and we need to be able to put that down. Right? I mean, is that not the
Yeah, and also every bit of our early development of government was all based around the concept of being terrified of any kind of military power.
right?
Every decision we made, and that's why we created our first government was Articles of Confederation. That's why it wasn't even a government. It was just it was a loose document that did almost nothing. That's because we wanted to have a government that was neutered to the point where it couldn't do anything.
And so with time, what we've seen, what article is it? It's one of the which amendment is it that where we reversed the Constitution and said, okay, we can popularly elect senators.
Popular election of senators have been that was in the progressive era.
14, 15, 16.
Yeah, it's in the 1920s.
Okay.
The number escapes me. I don't know if it's 13 maybe.
Well,
No,
so-
not the 13 is slavery. That's definitely not right.
Yeah, 13, 14,
14th
15 are
was,
slavery.
14th
aren't
was
they?
Slavery, equal protection, and voting rights were
Yeah.
13, 14, 15.
It was 16.
Yeah, 16 or
Inc-
15. I think.
income
16.
tax was.
Bad.
Hold on.
I think it was-
Like we
I think it
don't
was
have
seven. I think income tax was a 17.
We've got all
Was
the
it coming
information.
this where we have to look it up?
What?
Well, I'm the one that should be truly embarrassed, just for the record.
Well, we're trying to cover for you.
If
We love you, man.
you're listening, just give us a second. If you're watching, you can see that.
Hum
you need
the
to give
hum
us a
the
second.
thing to I'm a little teapot. No, I mean Jeopardy. It's the
Mhm.
same song.
Mm.
Tip me over and pour me out.
Is it?
Bump.
I'm never gonna
Yeah.
watch that show ever again. I'm gonna picture that house.
It's just picture them up there.
It's a similar song.
Yeah.
I don't want a summary. The first 10. Well, anyway, Steve, you've got a computer.
What's a computer? Remember that ad? That was so dumb.
Yeah. Okay, so so the thing with that is that our Constitution, like you said, Hunter, was written to make sure we can never have a monarch again.
Yep.
Well, then you get to this amendment for
17th.
17th.
Like
Okay.
Hunter said.
There we go.
Boom.
I'm not completely done.
Right on it, baby. So you get to the 17th Amendment.
16th was income tax.
That's right. Okay.
Boo.
And so what happened is the Constitution was written in such a way that the states held power.
Right.
Okay, you're going to popularly elect your representatives
Mhm.
to the House of Representatives.
Yep.
But the state is going from their government is going to send 2 senators that are elected representatives of the state. And then that way, if the Senate's not checking the House, you can call them back. You can bring
Yep.
them home. The state has control of your senators. That way they truly represent your state.
Yep.
Well, then all, the powers that be are like, oh, we don't have enough power over the people. We have to sell this as democracy. That's what they say now. Oh, we're not in a democracy. And so over and over we hear that throughout history now. And so they changed the way we elect our senators. Now we're like, well, the states have no control. We gave it away.
Well, and a lot of, when you're looking at the disbursement of power between states and federal government is infinitely more powerful than the state.
Right.
And a lot of that started happening really in the last 90 years after the Great Depression.
I run all that stuff back to the creation of the Federal Reserve and the creation of the income tax.
Well, one of the problems now, as far as in the context of the Great Depression, was the establishment of grants and aid packages from the federal government to the states.
Mhm.
After the Great Depression, when states were running out of resources and had no way to to fix these
Right.
issues within the states, and yet people boiling their shoes to eat the leather and soup,
Yeah.
they asked the federal government for help. Of course, FDR, he was, the most expansionist
He was
president in history.
glad to be there.
So he said, "We will give you
My
grants."
parents were alive back then. My dad talks about hearing stories of it was true. Tanker trucks full of milk being dumped down the side of a hill
Yeah,
to keep prices up for the farmers.
yeah.
I mean, it was
My
it was
grandfather
such
used
a
to tell stories
deliberate
about them
thing.
forcefully killing cattle,
Yeah,
having
yeah.
forcing ranchers to kill cattle during that time. But the grant programs get set up, and all of a sudden, you evolve from the 1930s all the way until now of a system in which states have reestablished their budgets to rely
Be dependent on the
massive
grant.
amounts on federal. You look at a state like Texas, we're one of the wealthiest states in the entire country. What percentage, you might ballpark, what percentage of our budget is federal dollars every year?
Oh, I have no
20,
idea.
30, something like that.
It's over 30%.
Yeah.
You can imagine a state like Mississippi, for example, which has a very poor tax base in general.
Right.
You're talking about pushing 60%, 50% of their budgets from the
Yeah.
federal government.
There's people that will say that Texas is not a net giver; it's a net receiver, but they're basing that on counting all the troops at Fort Hood, for instance,
Right.
and putting that as well. That's you. We're helping you out with that, and it's not.
It's federal
So
property. And
yeah,
federal
and I tried to get our state Republican executive committee man Paul Hale tried to find out what if education in Texas, if it's a net negative, the amount that we get from the federal government because of the compliance costs.
Yeah.
Mm.
And he couldn't find anybody that could find that out.
Mhm.
So that makes me think it probably is because the
Right.
information is not out there.
And
But
also,
they do. They hold. Hey, listen. I know the Constitution says we can't touch any of this, but if you put us in charge, we'll give you money.
yeah,
And the
yeah,
states,
that's right.
yeah.
And the federal government over time, especially in the last 50 years,
Mhm.
has pretty much operated in a coercive manner. If we want you to do a thing,
Mhm.
if you don't do thing, we take money and get money,
Well,
and that's
Right.
kind of what they've done.
Speed limit. Remember the speed limit?
Drinking age of
that's what I said. The easiest
21.
example is Louisiana.
Yeah,
you know?
Louis, the land of the drive-through daiquiri was like, no, we're not doing that. For 10 years, they were behind on highway funding from the federal government.
They left it at 18. You
Yeah.
know,
And
so they're like full pass.
if you look at things like
do.
gun policy, I think that especially in under administrations that are very pro gun control in general, you see a lot of that happening, especially after events. How can we strong arm states into passing more restrictive laws?
Mhm.
Say you would find in like California or Massachusetts, for example. And
You-
luckily, conservative states at this point have been able to kind of bend that off pretty well by
Yeah.
keeping
So
decent
far.
budgets. Yes.
I remember when Obama was elected, I was living in DFW.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, we're going to buy some pistols.
Oh, I used to work for a very, very large firearm retailer before I'm in my current position. And I did that for several years. I was sold guns, but also I used to be a buyer for the company.
Uh-huh.
We would drive around and buy up guns from collections. And I drove as far as Waco. And
Okay.
one great story there. So me and another guy, he's since retired. We got a call from a guy who lived near Fort Hood, and he said, I've got a collection of M1 Garands that I want to sell to y'all. And he said, I've got a few, and I want to sell them to y'all, so that way I don't have to worry about listing each one of them individually. So all
Yeah.
of
Mhm.
So we take 2 pickup trucks and we drive down to near Fort Hood, and we go in this guy's warehouse, and this guy's got cardboard boxes stacked on inventory shelves inside of this metal building.
It's awesome.
And he probably had 300
Wow.
Garands. And we bought the checks. Not all of them, but we went through all of them over in a day and through them and got the ones we wanted to bring back to sell. And we had those cardboard boxes stacked up with ratchet straps over the top in back of pickup truck. Looked like Al Qaeda or something driving down the interstate. So we drive back, and we got pulled over because one of the ratchet straps was coming loose. Didn't see it.
Uh-huh.
And the cop was like, "What are you hauling?" I was like, "There's a whole lot of guns back there." And instead of it becoming an issue, that's what I love about this state. He came out. He's like, "Hey, can we look at some of these?" I was like, "Sure." So we sat on the side of the road. He kind of looked at a few of them. He was like, "Man, that's so cool." And we packaged it back up, headed back home. But we had this cardboard boxes stacked up to the height of the back of the cab, and nobody ever knew what they were.
Some lefties driving down the road. Y'all are showing cops guns. Like, it's cool.
But it's I love that business. I worked for a few other dealers here in town, Most of them have gone defunct at this point, but not because of me. But
Yeah,
yeah,
because you're not there
and of
anymore.
course I moved on.
Yeah.
But that industry is, even the legal aspect, the legal side of that industry, I saw all of it, and
Right.
it's really interesting to see how it all functions, how the relationship between the dealers and the ATF works,
Right.
and what that's like, and it's it's very eye opening.
Obama was the gun salesman of the year, like several years
Oh,
running.
we were flooded, and pawn
Yeah.
shops here in the area realized it too. And being a corporate office, your prices are kind of fixed. They don't adjust anything
Yeah.
with demand. They just there's the price, and they put them out to hundreds of stores. And so the pawn shops realized that people were buying stuff for twice as much as what they were going for
Mhm.
last week, and they came and bought all our inventory and then flipped them over.
Right. We'll just do this. Well, here's my deal. When it comes to gun rights and let's make it illegal to buy a gun. It's already illegal to murder somebody.
Yeah.
So there's that, and I know that's a simplistic view on it, but that's the way it is. But then if let's say somebody's put on a list and this person doesn't pass a background check, if they really wanted to, they could walk into any bar in town, say, I've got $500 cash. I need a pistol. There's a chance. I'm not saying 100%, but there's a high chance somebody's like,
Well,
700, and you can walk out of here with it, or I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, you can so that's why the push for gun regulation just doesn't make any sense to me, because you can get one without doing all that. Now,
we can make it more difficult. If someone is a felon child molester, they
Yeah,
shouldn't
I
be
don't
able
want.
to walk into any business and purchase a gun legally. They can
Agree.
go to the illegal channels and double the charges.
Yeah, I agree with that,
But
but
if we make guns illegal, no one will have guns anymore. That's just logical. That's exactly how we dealt with drugs.
right. Hunter and I are products of the DARE
That's
program.
sarcasm.
DARE was in school
Oh,
when we
yeah.
were in school,
Yep.
and
Rough the crime dog. Huh?
yeah, McGruff. That's exactly right.
Shady dog in a dark alley with a trench coat, and supposed to listen to him about what I was supposed to do.
Don't buy drugs. I believe this.
Except for me. It's fake Rolexes I have in this trench coat.
Like, who was high enough to make this dog talk?
And that DARE program, it was interesting that the Just Say No initiative. Well,
Yeah.
Nancy Reagan was, I think, behind a lot of that. And it's at its core, it's good, but
Sure.
you have to ignore human nature and the fact that, especially teenagers, they just do the exact opposite of what the moral thing is a lot of times.
Yeah. Oh, this is what I'm supposed to do? No.
You're right.
Well, and that's the thing with all these gun regulations. What was the town in Maine? Been years ago that just basically pretty much required you to be armed.
And it's all
to
Georgia.
carry.
And
Did
it's all
Georgia do
Georgia
it too?
passed an ordinance that said every household has to have a firearm.
And what does crime?
I'm all with
It
that.
went-
If they give stimulus checks to buy those guns, I'm all for it.
Well, they also had waivers if you religiously objected to that, then you didn't have to have a gun in your home.
Like
But
you're a pacifist or something.
yeah, some kind of waiver.
But if you knew, well, I'm not going to rob anybody anyway, because that's just not the mindset I'm in, right? But I would think if a criminal, where do people go to commit these tragedies, these mass murders or robberies?
Wishful thinking zones.
Yeah.
That's
And I think the state of
That's a gun-free zone. It's
Yeah.
a gun-free
in
zone.
the state of Texas, I think,
Talk to the
especially
camera.
since the Uvalde massacre, I think that state has done a lot of really good common sense things and
I think
protecting
so.
those soft areas, soft targets is what they are.
Yeah.
And especially schools and things like that. And now, is it ever going to prevent every single thing? Well, no, this is not Minority Report. We can't sit and figure out the
Right.
future.
And we don't want to.
Yeah. And basing policy on future issues is always usually a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
Because
We had at the Bowie County Patriot.org, we had
trademark.
we had somebody from that region down by Uvalde come to speak one night, and they said that it was planned by the cartel because the enforcement of the immigration laws was doing pretty well right there, and so the cartel arranged to do that. So this kid, I was like, where did he get his money? Well, he would take his car, he'd pick up 2 or 3 illegals, and he'd take them to San Antonio, come back, or something like that, and make several $1,000s. Did that a few times, bought a truck, did it a lot more, and that's how he was able to afford
And
the
the
truck and the
rifles,
rifles. And
one of the things that really, when that all went down, and I'm not conspiracy theorist or anything, but one of the things that
But let me tell you.
well, one of the things that really
We're
I've been
conspiracy
I
fact
was in the
specialists
business
now.
for years,
Yeah.
and generally speaking, and I've got all kinds of stories about things that happen I wouldn't share on the podcast, but in general, most people, especially inexperienced people or amateurs, criminals, they don't chase high end items.
Oh,
Very
really?
rare. This kid had 2 Daniel Defense
Yeah.
AR-15s,
Yeah.
and I have one, and I know how much they cost, and he had
And
2 of them.
they're not giving them away.
You're talking about
Yeah.
$4,000
Yeah.
between those 2 guns, and it's it was odd to me that that was what he walked in there with. And if you look at previous shootings, it's usually somebody who gets something out of their parents' gun cabinet
Right.
Yeah.
or something like that. And
Those kids was living with his grandparents, wasn't he?
even with Charlie Kirk's killer, you're talking about military surplus, probably a sub $300 rifle,
Right. Easily
with
found.
right, and he walked in there with $4,000 worth of ARs. My first thought was this guy's he was barely 20. How old was he? 20?
18, 19.
18,
Yeah,
19?
so, yeah, he's right
I-
there.
Why
does he have $4,000 worth?
Well, why didn't he go in and just buy the one that's $500?
If that's what
Yeah,
you're buying it for.
Right, and so that was odd to me. I'm not saying there's anything that's not linked. To
Well, I
anything,
mean,
but it was
but
weird.
it's true that the kid. Everybody's like, where did he get this brand new truck? Where did
Yeah.
he get the money to get these guns? And I don't. If they ever looked into it, they quit talking about it because
Mhm.
it's a known thing that all up and down the border, you can make a pretty good bit of money
Yeah.
just by getting some guys lay down your back seat, drive them 100, 200 miles into Texas.
Or running guns from private entities here in the States across the border. That's a big one.
Have you ever gone on and I have not, but I know people have a hunting trip in Mexico in the last 10 years?
Not in the last 10 years. I've been down Del Rio, and that's been 20 years ago.
Right.
That's the border.
So I've got some friends that have gone, and there's the paperwork you fill out at the border to check your gun in and then to get it across and then, to go back and forth to Mexico
Mhm.
in order so you can go down there and hunt whatever you're hunting. But, that's time consuming.
Yeah.
And so to see there, even if someone wanted to do it, now everybody I know did it legally, went through the paperwork, submitted it, well in advance, and had it all set up. But still, when you get to Mexico, the first cop you see or whatever, you're handing them $300 just to
keep going.
hey, I gotta go farther. I'm hoping for a good trip. Oh yeah, thanks for the cash.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
That's
That's
right.
the way the world
You can
works.
pay your ticket here, or you can go down to the courthouse. It's
Yeah.
up to you.
Yeah. You hand them $300 and you're good to go.
And one of the other issues I think, as far as evolving around the Second Amendment, is how uneducated people with the loudest arguments typically are, as far as the legal aspect. Not even usually, the thing I always hear people, especially gun owners, who they say the other side talks about gun control, but they don't know anything about guns, and that's a valid
Right.
point. But they also don't know much about gun laws, as
Right.
far as the actual legal apparatus that exists right now.
Well, and I'm probably naive to it. Kind of just walk through that. Like there already are background checks, right? You don't just go in. That's what the media sells you is, oh, you just go in and you 15 minutes and you have a gun. Well, as a guy who buys guns, I know that's not true.
The only way that's true is if you have a concealed
Right? Yeah,
license, and
because
they
you've
don't.
already
You can streamline that process
Well,
somewhat.
well,
You
they don't have to
wait for phone calls.
If you have the carry license, then they don't have to run your 4473. When you go in to buy a gun,
Yeah.
you fill out a form called a 4473. That gets put through a National Instant Check System, NICS, which is a division of the FBI.
right.
And people think, well, the FBI is checking. No, it's some clerk somewhere that's answers phones.
Right. Yeah.
And now it's online. Since I've done it, it's online. You used to have to call them in, and they would give you a confirmation number, and they would tell you, proceed, deny, or delay. Delay
Right.
is usually a thing where you have a name somewhere to somebody else who's legal troubles, and they have to double check things like
Right.
that. And then you would used to in the 90s, after the Brady bill was passed in 94, a lot of states had waiting periods and things like that. Some states still have those. Some states
Brady
don't.
bill, was that also what limited mag size?
Uh,
Different.
that was the
different.
assault weapons ban.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Brady bill is what instituted the first background check. So,
Okay.
so prior to 94, there were no background checks at the federal level. There were no
So
background checks.
with background checks, we've had an increase in mass shootings.
I think you've had an increase in mass shootings because culture has.
Yeah,
Right,
I'm
to
just
the
making
point.
sure I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the background check's a background check. It's not a future check. It's not a what will you do with this in the future check. And
No, yeah.
the vast majority of human beings that go in and buy a gun legally are they're gonna use
I
that
mean,
gun for the right purpose, and they're gonna
what's the rough number of guns in this country? It's more than people,
I think
right?
there's 7
Oh,
guns for every 1 American.
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, it's something like that.
So
Yeah.
I mean,
it's something to be proud of. I think.
Yeah, we had a lot. Yeah, and of course that's heavily it depends on what part
yeah,
of the
'cause
country
when
you're
you said
living in. People in the South and the West, is particularly
Yeah.
California.
when you said
Yeah,
7, I start counting. I'm like,
it's a lot, man.
seems low.
Yeah, and gun ownership is increasing after since 2012 especially. Gun ownership has skyrocketed, and I think every year we have an increasing amount of new gun owners in
Yeah.
the country,
Yeah.
especially women and things like that. I think that's pretty common when you have a society that does not feel safe by the apparatus that's supposed to keep them safe. They're
Right.
going to take it on themselves
The
to keep
government.
themselves safe.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and here's my deal. If you don't want to commit to learning gun safety and you don't want to commit to learning how to use your weapon and all that, I don't want you to have one.
No. Now
But
it's your right to have one.
Yeah,
it's your right to have
keep
one.
it at
I
home.
don't think it's the brightest idea, and a lot of times gun owners always say, well, look at Switzerland. Huge, the Swiss have a huge high, they issue guns to their citizens, and
Yeah.
they do because they
It's
run on a
it's your
private
duty to keep a gun at home.
right. Their entire
It's a
country
military
is weapons.
militia and ammo. Yeah.
Right, but it's also one of the heaviest regulated nations on earth when it comes to gun ownership. And what's interesting about those, and I collect military surplus firearms after years, and I have there's a gun called a Swiss K31. It's a
Mhm.
bolt action rifle that they use until about probably the 60s.
Okay.
And it's a straight pull. Pull it back, push
Okay,
push that
yeah.
tape. Right. So, what's interesting is, and a few of those I have, if you take off the butt plate, so when those were given to Swiss citizens
Mhm.
starting in the 30s, well into the 70s, to keep at home,
Right.
issued to the citizens. And when you open, and a lot of them, if you pull the plate off, there'll be a tag there with the guy's name and the address.
Like this
Original
belongs to this guy at this
Right.
house.
Yeah. And so it's
Write them a letter. Thanks.
most of them are probably dead.
Grandkids are like,
but it's a very heavy regulated thing.
Yeah.
Issued ammunition, they do ammunition checks. I think when you fire the ammunition they issue you, they have to be accountable for those like the police do here.
Mhm.
And so it's heavily regulated. The United States is probably the last area of what you might call the Wild West gun ownership.
stronghold of freedom.
And everywhere else, it's even in Switzerland, which has the highest ownership rate of any nation on earth, pretty much
Yes.
legally anyway. It's heavily regulated, but they're also a tiny little nation.
Yeah. Well, you know what bothers me is anytime. Well, for a while, I haven't seen it said on the news in a good number of years, but for a while, it was this person had the verbiage around framing what was it? Oh, they had materials to make a bomb, they had an arsenal, an arsenal,
Yeah.
they had an arsenal and all that, and then I start thinking about everyone I know that lives on a farm.
An arsenal.
And I'm like, so the media can label any of us as extreme just because, oh, you plant a garden, oh, you maybe you like to sport shoot, maybe you like to carry a sidearm for self defense, and you have hunting rifles. That's not a stretch for anybody I know.
Well, and I think one of the problems of the United States in gun ownership is that we are basically, I would say, 5 countries trying to function as one country. We truly are.
Okay.
We have New England, and we
Yeah.
have the Old South, and we have what we call the New
Southwest.
South, and then the Southwest, and the Midwest, and the Northeast, and the Northwest, or not Northeast, Northwest, and then Alaska and Hawaii. Because they're on the other side of the moon.
Yeah.
And culturally, we're so different that the reason why people have such problem with guns, by and large, is what I call the ick factor. It's icky. People who don't grow up around them, people who are never around them, they live in
Right.
urban areas, they live under constant police protection. How can someone like that reconcile their way of life with, say, like I grew up out near Mandeville.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
how can someone possibly understand the way I live? And
You
likewise with
can't.
them, I can't fathom living in a place like Chicago, for example.
Yeah.
Or I
Yeah.
lived in Dallas for a little while going to school, and I hated it.
I was out
hated it.
there
You know?
last week or the week before and driving the same drive I used to drive when I worked out there,
Yeah.
right? And basically, 35 coming out of Denton
Yeah,
to
yeah.
George Bush.
I live in Denton.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So
380 and 75
yeah,
and all that convergence.
so yeah, I was on 35 crossing the lake coming south.
Yep.
Jumped on George Bush to head back to 30, and I thought, forgot how much I hated this.
Yeah, it's miserable. Like I would be. I mean, I would be passing out for a panic attack if I lived there every day.
Oh, for
I
sure.
mean, and luckily I was too. When I lived there, I was young and it didn't bother me. But as I got older and wised up, I'm like, this is no way
This is
to
not-
live. You know,
this
this
is-
is terrible.
The coolest thing I ever saw in Dallas was, I was on the I-35E bridge going over Lake Louisville, stuck in traffic, and I look beside me, and there's this old boy, 80 something box Chevy,
Mhm.
single
Swift
cab,
Boat.
yeah, and arm propped up on the window, drinking a red label Budweiser, just sitting there. And I called my dad. I'm like, man, this guy's just sitting here drinking. He's like, it's the way it used to be.
Arrest me, I'll be dead in a week anyway.
Like, he gave no cares.
I had a cop friend that would come visit. He was from here, but lived in the Metroplex. He'd come visit every once in a while, and he would drink beer all the way to from Dallas to
Right.
this area, and like he would go, all right, there's 21 beers are here, 20 beers in this. I know because I know how many I threw out the window on the way here, and he would do that all the way.
We
He
don't
was a
support
cop.
littering.
Have you ever
Yeah.
seen those news reports when they first passed the don't drink and drive? People were like, and they interviewed like regular citizens about how they feel about the new laws that say you can't drink and drive, and people were like, this place is a prison. I can't believe this nation used to be a nation of freedom, and it was because they couldn't drive around with no seatbelts and drinking beer.
Oh, and so the freedom comment, going back to how we're the last freedom of firearms. I was with a person.
Now,
when-
and I say that loosely. If you
Yeah.
go to third world nations and developing nations, they have complete freedom of firearms,
Yeah.
but totally different context.
yeah,
over there,
yeah,
you know?
completely
Yeah.
different. But we were shooting out in what they considered a yard,
Yeah.
what many would consider a field.
Right.
But on outside of Texarkana city limits,
Mhm.
but on the edge of civilization. However, we're in the middle of 11 acres with a 30-acre backdrop behind them, with a dirt pile, right? And
Yeah.
and sitting there just shooting rifles. Anyway, sheriff deputy pulls up, walks up, and says, "Hey, put down your gun." Person looks him dead in the eye and goes, "You can't come on here and say that to me."
Yeah.
It's true.
Of course, I'm thinking, oh, this isn't the way I wanted this to start.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I didn't know this was about to be that kind of
Action day at the range.
And I was like, and the officer goes, "Excuse me?" And the guy goes, "You can't come on here without cause into the middle of my property and tell me to put down my gun. Why are you here? We've had complaints that you're shooting. Okay, now you need to leave." And that was the way that, that's what we've got. And that's what we're trying to hold on to. And to look, I mean, we're in over 30 states now, listen to, in 9 countries. There's going to be people that hear this and think, what? You can tell the police to go away when you're shooting your gun? Yeah, that's the great, especially in Texas.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's what we want. That's what we're clinging on to,
Yeah.
right?
And I think every person in law enforcement that I have known and gotten to know in this context has always been a supporter of,
Yeah.
of the Second Amendment.
Yeah, I was
I've
driving
never had
South
an issue.
Texas. I was in a rental car, and I passed a little pod of black SUVs on the side of the road. It was
Mhm.
far enough south that's like part of
It's part of what it is.
well, it's part of checking for illegal immigrants and stuff.
Mhm.
And I passed them. I topped the hill, and I was a little over,
Yeah.
and I slowed down, and I keep going. I can see back behind me at least a mile, maybe more than that. One of the troopers comes out, and comes up, and gets on behind me, then pulls behind me and lights me up. And my tags were expired on my rental car, and he was like super friendly when he walked up. "I'm so and so, Texas Highway Patrol. The reason I pulled you over is because," and I laughed, and he's like, "Okay, why?" And I go, "This is a rental car." But he'd already asked me for a driver's license, and I said, and I handed him my concealed carry permit, and I said, I'm wearing my gun. He's like, "Whatever."
Right.
I mean, that's literally, he didn't say whatever. He's
Yeah.
like,
Oh, whenever I went to, when you used to have the license, and I went through the class years ago, and I know we have open carry now and constitutional carry, but I still tell everybody get the license
Yeah.
anyway, you know, and because that gives you reciprocity elsewhere too.
Yeah.
And I have a good story about that. Anyway, so the former JP that taught our class, you know, he said, you know, if I pull you over and you have a concealed handgun license, you don't have a gun on you. My first question is, why don't you have a gun on
Yeah,
you?
it's been
What's wrong with you?
But reciprocity is funny because so my mother and my stepfather live in St. Louis,
Mhm.
and I was up there. He had a medical procedure a couple years ago, and I went up there to see him. And I carry my gun. Just not going to St. Louis. I always have my gun.
Yeah.
And I was coming home, and you go in on 55 going north, and you leave on 55 going south. Well, 55 South was shut down right outside of downtown St. Louis, and the diversion around is you have to go to Illinois for just a second. I was like, so
Yeah.
I had to, because Illinois does not
Uh-uh.
recognize reciprocity.
You have to
I-
wear a yellow.
I had to
van.
drive like an hour out of the way the other direction to circle back around to be able to not end up getting pulled over, because I thought, you know, if I drive through there, I'm like this is over in cornfields, you know. And,
You literally have to have a firearms owner identification card
that's
in
right.
Illinois.
And rifle hunting is illegal.
Yeah, it's only shotgun.
Shotgun and
Mhm.
archery only.
That's sad.
It's wild.
People live like that.
It's a beautiful
Well,
state though.
you know,
Unfortunate.
last time I got pulled over, of course, my daughter's with me or whatever. First thing I say, they say, "How can you grab?" I'm like, "Yeah." I just because if I'm in my truck, I'm not wearing it. It's just right within hands reach.
Mhm.
9mm right there. No, it's kind of the same deal. All right, thanks.
Yeah.
You know, because
If you're transparent about it and you tell them, like, look, I've got a weapon in the car, don't wait for them to ask. I tell them.
no, yeah, I tell
You know,
as soon as
I
they
tell 'em.
also don't get pulled over.
I
all the
tell them,
time.
like, look,
yeah.
no, I don't get pulled over. I haven't been pulled over for 7 years, but you know, I'd say, you know, I have a firearm in the car. This is where my insurance information is. This is where my identification is. I'm going to reach for those things now. Other hand on the wheel. That, you know, and 'cause people don't realize how.
A trooper that pulled me over, I told him I was wearing the gun,
Yeah.
and he's like, whatever. And I said, I've got the rental agreement in the console, and he's like, okay. And I mean, I'm reaching right here to get it.
Yeah,
And he didn't care.
Yeah.
You know, I've been to Austin a bunch in the last year. And there's if you go to the Capitol, there's troopers everywhere.
Yeah.
right.
It's probably one of the safest places you can be.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they are totally chill about firearms.
Yeah.
I'll walk up, except in the Supreme Court building, that they have special rules there. I need a special permit, I guess. But you go in, you hand them your license, your carry license, and they don't even scan your bags.
Mhm.
So, I mean, they're chill about it. I asked them one day. I said, what's the rule on open carry in here? Because I was getting kind of sweaty wearing a jacket and trying to look decent. And at the end of the day, and I would like to take it off. And I said, what's the thing about open carry? And he goes, it's your capital.
Yeah.
You're right.
I said, so I don't have to be wearing this jacket? And he goes, no. And
Yeah.
you can have really cool gun conversations with the troopers there, because a lot of them enjoy guns. And,
Right.
And you can
And
sit and talk
shooting
to them for
and-
15,
Yeah,
20
what's the
minutes.
rule on celebratory gunfire if this legislation passed?
As they say in the other guys, office punch.
But going back to what I was talking about before, as far as, you know, the nation being so divided on this issue, I do think it, because I mean I have families up north, and when you talk to them about this issue, it's like talking to someone from a different nation. It really
Yeah.
is. And if you don't grow up around them, if you're not exposed to them early on, and of course people always say, I can't believe you were given a gun at 5 years old. I'm like, yeah, I was taught.
That's
This
right.
is the reason why.
You just hand it to him, like, go figure
right,
this
yeah,
out.
that's right. You know, look up.
Yeah.
This is the dangerous end. That's the not dangerous end. Don't look on that end. You know, but
I got my first gun when I was 5 years old.
yeah,
That
me
my
too.
dad gave it to me.
Uh,
Lever action.
And my dad was a big hunter, and he believed in gun ownership and trained me as a kid, and I continued that on way beyond that. And trying to explain that to somebody else
Right.
who looks in absolute fear, and it's not just I
Yeah.
don't like these things; it's I'm terrified of these
Yeah.
things.
Well, but
And I think people like I believe that the people who have a conservative viewpoint on this issue should be those that are willing, very very receptive. Those people
Mhm.
to say, hey, look, we would love
come
to teach,
shooting.
we
with
would
us.
love to teach you how to use
There's
these things.
videos everywhere on YouTube about somebody who hated guns, and somebody said, let's go shooting.
Yeah.
And they go out there, they teach them everything. They make sure they got hearing protection. They start them off with a 22 and
Yeah.
work their way up. And they're going, this is awesome. And it's something they were afraid of an hour before. Now they're enthusiastic about.
Right.
And it's,
it's politicians also that tell them you need to be terrified of this. You
Yeah.
know, and because they have an agenda. You know,
because a
and
gun is a tool,
right.
just like carrying a hammer. I've got a 3 pound shop hammer in the box behind my tailgate. Could you kill somebody with it?
Because you're racist.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. But yeah, you kill somebody with it. Now,
Yeah.
if you're slow enough to get
It's
hit by
harder.
3, yeah, it just takes one lick, right? That's one time.
And another thing that surprises me, there's a whole lot of common ground on the issue. There's so much common ground.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
both
You know,
sides.
and you know, I don't know of any responsible gun owner who's like, you know what? I know this guy is a domestic. You know, he beats his wife. He should have a gun though.
Right.
I don't know anybody who thinks that that's
Yeah,
common sense
no.
policy.
Everyone has the right to life.
Yeah,
And it doesn't matter what they've done in the past, they still have a right to life. They have a right to life. They have a right for the means to protect their life.
yeah.
And so it's just one of those things about liberty. It's a little icky, a little messy, but doesn't matter what you've done in the past, you have a right to protect your life.
See,
So
we split
are
on
you,
that one. That's okay.
do you, well, I get it, but
Yeah.
that's, I mean, it's an extreme liberty viewpoint. Should a pedophile have a gun? Unless someone's going to promise to protect them the rest of their life, you know, they have,
Actually, I could care less if they're protected the rest of their life.
well,
That's saying.
Yeah,
I'm
well, you know, that
definitely
what was that,
be-
the Pulse nightclub shooting.
Yeah.
And it was
In Orlando.
somebody shot up a gay bar.
Yeah.
And suddenly gays are afraid of their lives, and there were so many posts out there.
They should have had guns.
Well, if you are gay and you're considering getting your first gun,
Mhm.
let me teach you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will teach
100%.
you how to shoot. I'll even go with you to
Yeah. If you
to
feel
the
like
gun.
you're a
gun-
victim group,
Yeah.
yeah, go get lessons. Go.
When I put in the
shoot.
Metroplex, this was like around 90, a couple years either way of 90.
Yeah.
I live not very far from an outdoor gun range.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure how many female coworkers I taught to shoot.
Yeah.
Just go to the range,
Okay.
take a 22 pistol, and give them the basics and teach them to shoot.
Mhm.
And they loved it. And
Well, you know, in
back
my
then it was a little bit different. Well, back then we didn't have concealed carry laws either.
Right.
But
in my industry, which is real estate,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
if you're, especially in this area, if you've got a female showing you a house,
Mhm.
she's packing.
there's about a 90% chance.
It should be 100%.
Yeah,
It
I mean,
Yeah.
she is armed,
Yeah.
and especially in the group I work with, every one of those ladies, you can't even get mouthy at the office. You know,
That's me 2 rounds in the toe.
yeah. All right, guys, we're kind of wrapping up here. I know we've all got stuff to do. I just wanted to have a conversation about guns and just the reality of this our right. It's one of the things that's under attack, and it's probably one of the things that keeps what we've got.
Yeah.
You know,
You know,
so-
it is encouraging that there's so many people who are irrationally afraid. There's a phobia about guns.
Yeah.
100%.
Their minds can be changed so quickly with personal experience.
Yeah.
Now, some of it's personal experience of I need to protect myself, but just take somebody to the range
Yeah.
and show them.
Well, even like with my daughter, we keep a Red Ryder BB gun by the back door, and then it's ease out and see if you can shoot that pole over there. See if you can actually hit the power line. See if you can, just practice. Is your safety off?
Make sure you hit
Is it-
Jeffrey's window.
Is your safety off?
Yeah.
Is your muzzle in the right spot? Is it propped against your shoulder? Where's your finger when all the steps? She doesn't know that I'm teaching her gun safety
Mhm.
about one day. Here's how to actually do it the correct way.
And I think that being more like you were talking about, like, actively saying, I want to proactively help you
Mhm.
understand what this is, how to use this thing. I think that also does great things for the pro gun argument.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not scary people who are hiding under your bed, trying to snuff you out when you lie
Right.
down at night.
Yeah.
We're accommodating people who want civilized society,
Right.
and to have the ability to protect, regardless of what group you're a part of, have the ability to protect yourself from legitimate threats.
Yeah.
I think that's it's a positive thing, good thing for the movement.
All right. Well, Hunter, thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
Steve, thanks for being here.
Glad to be here.
All right, everybody. We'll be back and do it all again next week. I hope God blesses each and every one of you today.